I was good, you guys. You know what I'm saying? We're back. I know it's been a long time. I'm sorry this will never happen again, but it was Christmas break and stuff, and I had to take a little break. It's hard to get back motivated when you don't like. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into all that, man. But we got how the Detroit Pistons wasted eight lottery picks. Wait, eight lottery picks, eight of them, in under 10 years. Yeah, video by Legend of Winning. I never thought one of these videos would be made about my team, but of course it was. Of course it was. It's not that hard to figure out. That's why we still suck. Um, Video by Legend of Winning. I did a test. I was trying to do a test run. That's why I was like that. But I need to. Let's just get straight into it. Actually,
Throughout the 2000s, the Detroit Pistons were a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference. Multiple 50-win seasons, 6 straight conference finals appearances, and an NBA championship in 2004, which was one of the biggest upsets in NBA history. However, since the turn of the decade, this once glamorous franchise has been abysmal. Only one winning season, 6 coach changes, numerous mistakes, a lot of which stem from the players that were selected in the draft. Because since 2010, the Detroit Pistons have had 8 lottery selections, most of which have been top 10 picks. So how is it possible that a franchise can mismanage so many top 10 picks? The draft mistakes begin in the summer of 2010.
Now let's be honest here. Okay, Greg Monroe was not bad for us. Greg Monroe fell off a cliff as soon as he left Detroit. To be honest, when he went to Milwaukee, that's when he fell off a cliff. You know what I'm saying? That's when he became trash. He wasn't that bad for us. He was a good scorer in the paint or whatever.
We're in a very respectable class featuring players such as John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, and a few steals later on in the first round, such as Eric Bledsoe and Avery Bradley. The Detroit Pistons, with the 7th overall pick, decided to go with 6'11" big man Greg Monroe out of Georgetown. Now, at the time, drafting Greg Monroe honestly wasn't that poor of a decision. In college, he showed a lot of promise, and within the first few years in the league, he showed that at worst, he could be a solid starter on a playoff team. Unfortunately, though, it just didn't work out for Monroe and the Pistons. By the time he was a restricted free agent during the summer of 2015, the NBA had evolved significantly, to the point where, despite Monroe coming off of his best season of his career, his playing style just wasn't going to be as impactful. Not only that, the makeup of the roster didn't really lend itself to having a player like Greg Monroe on the team. So
I never want to see that photo ever again. Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and Andre Drummond. That was like the worst spacing of all time, bro. Oh my goodness.
really lend itself to having a player like Greg Monroe on the team. So Detroit just allowed him to walk in free agency and receive nothing in return. To make matters worse, if you go back to the 2010 draft class, you have future All-Stars in Gordon Hayward and Paul George, who were selected by the Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers. Two players that would have fit well with the Pistons at the time, who were looking to transition beyond the Tayshaun Prince and Rip Hamilton years as the two veterans were starting to age. After the 2010 draft class, as well as another really bad season, the Pistons entered the 2011 draft class with the 8th overall selection. And with that,
2011, let me think about this. Oh, god dang it. This was Brandon Knight, wasn't it? Yeah, Brandon Knight, man. Like, he has, like, the worst career that you would want if you're an NBA player. Like, aside from just, like, being out of the league and, like, just not playing. Like, he would have the next worst career, you know? Just always getting crossed up, always getting dunked on. Just... Just always something with Brandon Knight, bro.
At pick, Detroit decided to go with 6'2" guard Brandon Knight. Now, similar to Greg's impressive freshman year, election made a lot of sense. Brandon Knight was coming off of a very impressive freshman year, and very early on in his career, he was proven to be impactful in the NBA. Unfortunately for Knight, the progress wasn't seen quick enough from the front office, so after his second year in the league, the Pistons decided to move in a different direction and package him as well as another player to the Milwaukee Bucks to receive Brandon Jennings. Now,
bro, that low-key would have been nice, bro, if he tore his ACL, I believe, or his Achilles or something like that. But Brandon Jennings was like a good player, bro.
Fortunately, that transaction failed for numerous reasons. For starters, the productivity from Brandon Jennings started to decline rather significantly. A huge contributor for this had to do with his ruptured Achilles that he suffered during the 2014-2015 season.
Yep.
While nursing this injury, Brandon Knight would go on to improve under other teams and quite honestly put up numbers that were very similar to Brandon Jennings. Another reason why this was a massive failure is because if you go back to the 2011 draft class, there were several players that were better than both Brandon Jennings and Brandon Knight. Players such as
Brandon Jennings was in the 2011 draft class, or are you just saying that? Let's see, Brandon Knight. Oh, so we could have got Kemba, we could have got Clay, we could have got Kawhi, Vucevic, Tobias. Oh, we did get him actually. Kenneth Faried. Oh, this actually wasn't that bad of a draft class. What is this? 2011.
several players that were better than both Brandon Jennings and Brandon Knight.
Wait, Alec Burks was that
There
high
were
of a draft pick? 12?
Several players that were better than both Brandon Jennings and Brandon Knight. Players such as Nikola Vucevic, Tobias Harris, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson. But if the Pistons were in the market of a point guard, well, they still had Kemba Walker available. But what makes this even worse is who the Detroit Pistons traded during that Brandon Knight transaction, which brings us to the 2012 draft class. Now again, after another really bad season, the Detroit Pistons have another top 10 pick.
Yo, what is
and with it,
quality, bro? This is 1080p. Sure about that, buddy?
they decided to go with 6'10".
My boy, Andre Drummond. I got a poster right there and a poster right there of my guy, Andre Drummond, man. I wish we didn't trade him for a bag of saltine crackers and a half a penny and a
Big man out of UConn, Andre Drummond, who honestly, at the time, and even looking at some of the players who were still available after him, was the best decision for the Detroit Pistons.
Yes, sir.
What wasn't the best decision for Detroit was what they decided to do with Chris Middleton. Yes, with the second round pick during the 2012 draft, the Detroit Pistons selected Chris Middleton. And after just one season...
Who cares about Chris Middleton, bro? Bro, no one knew that he was going to be a decent player, bro. He's not really an all-star, but no one knew that he was going to be, like, a pretty good player. No one knew that. We traded him and Spencer Dinwiddie, actually, for, I thought that was for Brandon Jennings. Or was it Brandon Knight and Spencer Dinwiddie for Brandon Jennings? I don't know.
In a play, they decided to package him in the Brandon Knight transaction to receive Brandon Jennings.
Oh, wait. What? Yo, why is this dude going, like, in backwards order?
And Chris Middleton as package him in Chris Middleton. And after just one season of play, they decided to package him in the Brandon Knight transaction to receive Brandon Jennings. And Chris Middleton, as many of us are familiar with his name, would go on to be a two-time All-Star and better than both Brandon Jennings and Brandon Knight. And honestly, with all of those mistakes being made, it shouldn't be too surprising that the Detroit Pistons went into the 2013 draft class with another top 10 pick. Again, it's pretty...
2013, let me think about this. 2013, who did we pick? Let's see, this is after Andre Drummond, 2013. KCP?
Hard to criticize who Detroit decided to go with the 8th overall selection, which was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Yes, sir.
And despite the fact that even though, yes, there were players who were selected after KCP who were better, such as CJ McCollum and future MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, the 2013 draft class was really hard to scout for, even in the moment. So drafting a 6'5" guard who should be able to provide some 3-and-D productivity isn't the worst thing in the world, even if KCP was just projected to be a role player in the NBA. However, what does sour the little bit of optimism that I could find in this selection is what the Detroit Pistons decided to do once KCP was a restricted free agent. Because instead of trying to retain him, during the 2017 offseason, at the age of 24 years old, the Pistons decided to allow KCP to just walk in free agency. Since then, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has grown a lot. His efficiency is at career highs in his time in LA, as well as him being a more productive defensive player and a bit more well-rounded.
Yeah, so KCP is a nice player, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's a decent player. He just gets clowned on because he's on the Lakers, and yeah. Anyone that plays on the Lakers is going to get...
Pulling the plug on someone who's not even 25 years old that you selected with a top 10 pick, just doesn't make any sense at all, and it's a massive mistake. But it still gets worse, because now entering the 2014 draft class, and the Pistons are still a horrible team. And unfortunately, the Pistons don't even have their first round pick due to the front office pairing the draft pick with Ben Gordon as they traded him back in 2012 in an attempt to save some salary. That pick would go on to be the 9th overall selection, and with it, the Charlotte Hornets would draft Noah Vonleh in the 2014 draft.
Yeah, I don't care about that
Class. Granted, Noah Vonleh did not turn into the player that anyone expected, and as of today, he is out of the league. However, looking at some of the other players who are left on the board, players such as Dario Saric, TJ Warren, and Zach LaVine, those are all players who could have been great contributors to a Pistons team that clearly needed a bit more young talent on their roster. More importantly, if you look at the makeup of the 2014 Detroit Pistons roster, drafting a player such as TJ Warren or Zach LaVine, even with the 9th overall selection, is very realistic. But yet it still somehow gets worse, because despite Detroit not having their first round pick during the 2014 draft, they still were able to hit huge with their second round pick, who they utilized to select Spencer Dinwiddie, who in today's league has provided enough evidence that he's a solid contributor coming off of the bench. Unfortunately, none of that productivity was seen in Detroit, because after just 2 seasons with the Pistons, the front office decided to part ways with Spencer Dinwiddie and trade him to Chicago for Cameron Bairstow, which is someone that you may not be familiar with, because just 1 month after trading for him, the Pistons decided to just waive Cameron. So yeah, another wasted draft pick. Now heading into the 2015 draft class.
I'm about to say, I have no idea who that is. I would have known if he played for the Pistons, but he didn't even play.
Yet again, the Pistons have another top 10 draft pick. And with the 8th overall selection, the Pistons...
Wait, was this 20... He said 2015?
Again, the Pistons have...
2015. This is B.A. Stanley Johnson, as Crispy Flakes would say. I don't like Stanley Johnson, bro. I really don't like this dude, man. I hate him. No, I don't hate him. But like, gosh, he was like 2015 was a decent draft class, and we used it on Stanley Johnson. He was supposed to be a good defender, and he can barely even do that. The only thing he can do is play defense. He can't shoot. He can't dribble. He can't drive. He can't pass. He can't do any single thing except play a little bit of defense, bro. Like, why would you even draft this man in the first place? But I will say one thing. I went to a Pistons game once. It's like a couple years ago, probably. And, like, I was sitting, like, 2 rows behind the bench. That dude, Stanley Johnson, is huge. Pause. But, like, that dude is, like, about 6'7", 6'8", but that dude is, like big, bro.
Another top 10 draft pick. And with the 8th overall selection, the Pistons decided to draft Stanley Johnson out of Arizona, who quickly turned out to be one of the worst selections in a very deep 2015 draft class.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Because after Stanley Johnson, players such as Miles Turner, Kelly Oubre, and Devin Booker were still available. And again, looking at the makeup of the roster, selecting someone such as Miles Turner or Devin Booker would not have been that far-fetched for the Detroit Pistons, even with the 8th overall selection. Now, luckily, the Detroit Pistons were not heavily dependent on Stanley Johnson and his productivity to be a winning franchise. And by the end of the 2015-2016 season, they not only ended with a 44-win record, but they also ended the season with a playoff berth. Meaning
that swept, so it doesn't matter. We haven't won a playoff game in like 10 years.
For the first time in years, the Detroit Pistons did not have a lottery pick. However, the selection that they made with the 18th overall pick during the...
Henry Ellington is so bad, bro. Gosh, we just can't even... Oh, man, I hate this dude, bro. Stanley Johnson and Henry Ellington, man. These guys were like the two... These were our only 2 young players for a while. Until 2017, then we got Luke Kennard. Oops, man.
2016 draft was still a massive mistake.
Why am I even watching this video? I'm just getting mad.
Because with the pick, they decided to go with Henry Ellington, despite the fact that players such as Malik Beasley, Karis LeVert, and Pascal Siakam were still available. The missing productivity that resulted in fumbling 2 first-round picks, as well as Reggie Jackson missing a third of the regular season, really hurt the Pistons during the 2016-2017 year, and by the end of the season, the Pistons were back in the lottery. And entering the 2017 draft class with the 12th overall selection, Detroit decided to select Luke Kennard, a decision that...
See how none of these picks are like top 5 or anything? That's because the Pistons are trying to stay good. Like 12th pick, that's almost out of the lottery. They're trying to stay good, and like they just don't want to take. That's their problem. They just don't want to be bad and get a good pick. That's what they don't want to do. And what happens? You get Luke Kennard. That's what happens.
Honestly made a lot of sense, as the Detroit Pistons at the time were struggling significantly to space the floor out.
Like, he was supposed to be a good player, bro. He's supposed to be a guy that can come off the dribble. He can shoot a mid-range, shoot a 3. But he just doesn't make them. Even if he's wide open, he just misses, bro.
Because of this, the Pistons have already parted ways with Luke Kennard at the ripe age of 24. Bro. To make matters worse, if we go back to the 2017 draft and we see the two players who were selected after Luke Kennard and Donovan...
Oh my God. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Donovan Mitchell and Bam, bro? Oh my God. Oh my gosh, bro. How? Back to back. 2 All-Stars. Literally back to back after him, bro. That's crazy.
Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo, it is clear, even in the early stages of their careers, that the Pistons have made yet again another massive mistake. And finally, we are at the 2018 draft, where the Pistons unfortunately do not have their first round pick because they decided to part ways with it in a transaction in which they received Blake Griffin. With it, the Clippers decided to draft Miles Bridges, and on draft night traded Bridges to the Charlotte Hornets, and in return received Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who, even though is not an all-star and quite honestly more than likely won't be an all-star as the competition out west is very tough at the guard position, has already proven to be a really good player in the NBA, and it can produce at a near all-star level, with him only being in the league for the past 2 to 3 years. And oh yes, let me not forget, after 7 to nearly 8 years in Detroit, the Pistons decided to part ways with another player that they drafted with a top 10 pick in Andre Drummond, and essentially only received second round picks for his services, which when we look back we can see is a common theme with Detroit. Because it is one thing to swing and miss hard on a few selections over the course of an entire decade. Even some franchises who have great scouting departments will fall victim to this. But the mistakes are highlighted even more when you go back and you look at how little in return the Pistons received for all of these young prospects and draft picks. Thank you for watching.
That just made me depressed right there. That little reel of all these guys.
The Pistons
these are my guys, man.
Even more when you go back and you look at how little
Luke Kennard, I had hopes for him, man.
In return,
Andre Drummond, bro. We traded him for Brandon Knight and a second round pick. Now, unless that second round pick becomes the next Ginobili, I'm gonna be mad at that trade for the rest of my life, bro. I don't care.
The Pistons received
Johnson. He was supposed to be a good player, bro. He could have been. He has all the physical attributes, bro, but he just sucks. He's just bad.
For all of these young prospects and draft picks. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoy this type of content, not only do you need to make sure you hit the subscribe button.
I'll see you guys next video, man. I hope you guys enjoyed. Just a little rant. My Pistons suck. What else is new? I'll see you guys next video, man. Peace out.